This episode is brought to you by Maponics, specializing in predefined geofences for local and mobile targeting. Visit www.maponics.com/location for a free 3-month trial today. Well, hey, it's that time. Episode number 60 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing. My name, Rob Woodbridge. We're recording this live January 15th, 2012. And I'm buried under a mountain of snow. Asif, what about you?
We got a little trace amount on the ground, but not much of anything. So anyhow.
Well, yeah, because Asif is, of course, in the heart of Canada, aren't you?
Yeah.
Toronto, Ontario, Canada. From the LBMA.
We're just happy to see a little bit of white something out there because it's been green and mild, and yeah, that's pretty much all we've had. So anyhow, yeah, and so I'm Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association.
Yes, and enjoying a mild winter. We, I did this silly thing. I took a picture of this beautiful, warm, kind of fall-like day right before Christmas. And it was like the 23rd of December, no snow, it was green. They were forecasting a green Christmas. It's amazing what a difference kind of a month happened, like almost a month later, and we are buried under snow, like buried under snow. The 7-foot snowman that I made is now kind of a 4-foot snowman, and just his torso and his head. It's terrible here. God, winter in Canada. Yes, well. And we wouldn't be Canadian if we didn't complain about it. But we've got a great show, episode number 60. It's a big number for us, but we just keep on rolling through, and we got a great agenda of some items that we're going to talk about. Lots of acquisitions, lots of consolidation, lots of partnerships. We got obviously our product of the week, which is Roamler today. We've got a great sponsor in Maponics, and we'll be talking about them throughout the show. Got a bunch of funding, a couple of partnerships, as I said, and we're going to be featuring a good friend of ours, Gary Schwartz, as the resource of the week in his brand new book. But before we get into this, Asif, I know you have something that you're dying to get off your chest.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick mention that if you're following us and you're a follower of the Digital Out of Home space, the Digital Screen Media Association, the DSA, as they're known, we've partnered up with them, and basically they're holding a webinar on January the 24th to try and educate all of their following about what is this location-based marketing stuff that Rob and I talk about every week, but not necessarily everybody in the digital screen world does yet. So we're going to, there's a webinar, and so I'm going to be part of that, and Andy Rosen, who runs digital strategy over at Mayor, and Todd Sherman from Point Inside, and moderated by Jared Miller from United Airlines. So it'll be quite a group, and should be a good discussion. So January 24th, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll post the link so you can sign up.
Very cool. And yeah, the link will be somewhere around here. And if you can't, just head to untether.tv or thelbma.com, and you will find the link to the webinar. You're not limiting the number of people, are you? 200?
No. Oh, yeah. Easily.
200, 300, 400? And of course, if you ever need more information about this, if you're actually looking for this information and you want to participate, you can go back through the other 59 episodes of this show over the last year and a bit, and you will probably you will have an education in 50 hours. How's that?
There's got to be people who PVR us, no?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. You got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So,
anyways.
This week, another great week. We're starting to gain a little bit more momentum going into the year. The last couple of weeks have been somewhat, I mean, they haven't been slow, but with CES wrapping up, which was, obviously the consumer show, it's product galore. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about hardware and TVs and phones and Android this, and like it's just, you know what? Hardware doesn't matter anymore. What we're talking about right now, the software layer, the service layer, the stuff that enables that hardware, the ecosystem place, that's what matters right here. Not that stuff at CES. For you guys who just reported on it, all I heard was how much RAM is in this and quad-core processor and that, and I don't give.
Yeah.
I don't care. So these are the stories that are important to all of us because these are the relevant companies that are doing stuff today. First story. Talk about relevant company. Controversial company, Groupon, partnering with Deutsche Telekom. Interesting play for Groupon.
it's a very interesting play. This is the first carrier partnership for Groupon. I think what's really interesting about it for me is that you know, the relationship, at least the early testing that they're going to be doing out of this relationship is in Europe. Yeah. And not in North America, where, you know, they've obviously got, you know, their biggest base. So I think that's kind of interesting, first off. And I think the second piece of it is that, for those not familiar with Deutsche Telekom, is you know, Deutsche Telekom is part of owns T-Mobile yeah. as well. And you know, so you got, you know, T-Mobile, which is a big player in the U.S., Groupon, which is a big player in the U.S., and yet no talk about T-Mobile rolling out Groupon services. What we're hearing about is Deutsche Telekom doing this on their home turf, you know, in Germany and other parts of Europe. And you know, I like this move. I think it's a good move for Groupon. I think you know, you and I have talked a lot on the show about how we think carriers are going to ultimately you know, own a big piece of the kind of mobile couponing, you know, deal space. And so maybe this is one way to accelerate carrier entry into that.
128 million people, you know, are involved with DT, and I think, or subscribe to DT, and I think that this is an onboarding. This is what we used to, in the game industry, you know, call on deck, right? Which was the most valuable place you could be in a carrier when it was a closed ecosystem, which was, you don't even have to think. Like, for us, it was, you're in the games folder, there's our game, right? And it was an incredible revenue stream. And I think that that's what Groupon looks at this and says, you know, there's got to be a better way. I think that there's a disconnect here with Groupon's strategy, and maybe I'm wrong here, but, you know, there's Groupon, which is the group buying side of this, which is, I got to enable, you know, I got to reach 100 buyers or whatever in order to trigger the price or trigger the deal, and that takes time. So whatever that's 72 hours or 96 hours or whatever it takes. And then there's this whole mobile play, which is something that they seem to think that is very important, and it is, but it's location-based stuff. So this has to be an immediate deal, right? So this is their real push.
This is the Groupon now.
Yeah, but it's weird, you know. Groupon, that's the growth area, and because customer acquisition when you're on deck on a carrier is very, very low. That they've done that effort to get on the carrier, and I think that that's an interesting play, which is a departure for what Groupon's main base of business is, which is very costly to get customers, very costly to get a second customer to sign up, and it's reflective in their stock price, isn't it?
And I think the other thing to think about here too is perhaps this deal wasn't so much pushed by Groupon, but, you know, maybe, you know, kind of led by Deutsche Telekom, and I think part of that is when you look at what's going on in Europe, and we've talked a lot on this show about O2 in particular, and their whole Priority Moments campaign in the UK and Ireland, and all the stuff that they've been doing, and we talk about it all the time because we think it's been pretty effective and pretty innovative. Well, I mean, O2 is owned by Telefonica, you know, another major, massive, you know, telecom outfit based in Spain, you know, and operates in a lot of the same territory as Deutsche Telekom. So, you know, Deutsche Telekom sitting there going, you know, O2's been pretty effective doing this stuff, and they're in our market, they're coming at us, you know, what are we going to do? How do we respond? Maybe this is them saying, you know, Groupon gives us a leg up, potentially. And a chance to at least be on somewhat equal footing. So we'll see.
I think it's you know, the carrier base is massive. That carriers own the customers, and no matter what we talk about, I think that everything you have to do, the closest point between a service and a customer is on deck through a carrier. And what I didn't understand was the operating systems, but that this would be a part of. However, this is a pretty big deal. I don't think it's going to rescue Groupon. I think that now they've become marginalized with all the other location-based services. What are they? The awareness-making services, the discovery services, even like Foursquare. But having that number, and they keep throwing that out, 128 million subscribers to Deutsche Telekom, but that's across 50 countries. Right. So how big is this pool that they're actually playing in? And we know that it can't be on an iPhone. So how does this work out? And are these just feature phones? And if this is an SMS play, I think it's a great deal as well.
Yeah, no, I think it is from what I can tell, and therefore, you know, I think it's a good move because, you know, they talk about no download, no barrier to entry, you know, very much the O2 Placecast type of model like we've talked about so often on the show. So, you know, good deal. I like it for both sides. You know, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and the caveat here is the other side, where if they do what they're doing with their email blasts, which is basically untargeted spam that arrives in everybody's inbox, and you know, 1 out of every 10 hits something that's relevant to me, they're missing the point with mobile. They have to make these things so that they don't send one email to everybody or one SMS to everybody. It's very targeted, location specific. They have to do their homework on each one of these, and I think that that's where their challenges are going to be, and hopefully they don't fall down on this, because that's gonna destroy this this relationship if they just start spamming everybody. So interesting. Deutsche Telekom and Groupon getting in bed together. And we'll see what happens in Europe. It'll be a good test to see how this goes, because more carriers and more companies, like Living Social, will get into this if it works. Or maybe not. Second story. Kindle Fire, man, it is taking off. You know, I don't think that this is a competitor to the iPad. I think that this is a very unique tool, and I think it's a competitor to every retail outlet on the planet. I think that that's what this competes against. And so it's the new retail window. But one of the things that they never had was location services. So HopStop and Skyhook bringing location to the Kindle Fire.
Yeah, and the way this works effectively is the Kindle Fire doesn't have a GPS chip in it, so because of that, it hasn't been able to access location services like we have on our iPads and our Android tablets and some of the other things that we're pretty familiar with. Skyhook, as I think most of our listeners know because we've talked about them, basically has a database of locations built off Wi-Fi positioning, and it's quite extensive. I don't know what the numbers are, but millions and millions of Wi-Fi data points effectively in there that they can use for determining location. HopStop is another company we've talked about a little bit on this show. This is a New York-based company that basically helps you navigate your way from a transit perspective in major metropolitan cities like New York. Bus and train schedules, and marrying up media based on traffic flow around those public transit systems and things like that. So really cool company. Joe Mayer, great guy over there as well, who's behind that. And so what they've done is basically HopStop has partnered up with Skyhook to use their location system to bring that capability to the Kindle Fire, therefore bypassing the need for GPS, because it has Wi-Fi. You can use that kind of stuff, and basically you can push location services in sort of in the side door, so to speak, without GPS. And so it's kind of interesting. And according to Skyhook, this is the second time they've done this, or the second app that they've done this with. So I expect there'll be a lot more of this, to kind of expand the portfolio of services on the Kindle Fire. Yeah,
I can't think that this is anything but bad. I don't know how many people carry their Kindle Fire around with them as a location aware or need to be location aware, but I think that more and more maybe will. I mean, it's the same form factor as the Playbook. It's a smaller screen. It's a smaller everything. It's a portable device. And if you get like a, they've made some great vests now that actually you can store all these gadgets in. I think that this is a great way, certainly a needed way for giving a location. Now I'm going to assume that because it's the same chassis or the same technology or hardware that the Playbook is using, that eventually it will get a GPS. It's going to be necessary for it to get a GPS. Or if the rumors are true that Amazon's going to come out with a phone, then all of a sudden that plays into it as well. But this is a good way, of a low power consumption way of getting location. I like it.
Yeah, and you got to think too, like with the Kindle Fire, you've got a lot of folks that I don't own one, but I'm gonna say a lot of people I see with them are using them for reading books and things like that. If you're on public transit, you're likely sitting there reading a book or listening to music while you're waiting to get to your destination, and HopStop happens to be an app that is focused on helping you find your destinations and your routes and planning your travel. So those things seem to fit quite nicely. So anyhow, well, it's a good mix, and it's great that that there's innovation on the Kindle Fire. I think that it's as we've seen over since its launch, it's only been a month. You start to see the impact that something like that is having, and it's already, I think, leapt into the second place in terms of tablets. But again, I don't think it's not an iPad competitor. It's a different device. And,
But location is important, especially for commerce, man. And that's what Amazon is all about. God bless his soul. Jeff Bezos for president of the world.
You called it.
Yeah, well, it's 15 days in. It wasn't hard to make that call. But I love what Amazon's doing. I love Amazon in general. Yeah, let's just take a moment here and really appreciate what Amazon is doing. All right, on to the third story. Big football weekend. Obviously, if anybody who has been watching this football, it's like it's like football craze. The world stops on Saturday and Sunday during these last 2 weekends and leading up to what they call the Super Bowl. And with the Super Bowl comes advertising, lots of money. I mean, during the heyday, this is where people would, there's a site called adcritic.com back in the web days that would actually show these commercials ahead of time, and it would just be, I can't believe they can build a site based on commercials, and that's what they did. And so with the Super Bowl comes commercials, lots of money, and here's a company, God love it, little company called Shazam, with an incredible number of users. And what is the statistic that they're going to be? How many ads are going to be Shazammed on Super Bowl Sunday?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I can't believe there's people out there who listen to this show anyways who aren't familiar with Shazam. But great little iPhone app, been around forever. Hold it up, listen to music, and it basically names the tune for you and tells you what it is. 175 million downloads of this app. Okay, these guys just raised recently 32 million in funding. And they're going out and they're going big. And we talked about them a few weeks ago now, about how they're kind of adapting that app to listen for TV commercials while you're at home and triggering deals related to that drives traffic to store. And that's kind of, what we're about to talk about is kind of the extension of that. So building that type of functionality around the Super Bowl now, the sort of big behemoth of advertising dollars, where it all goes. They ran a few tests last year, apparently, during the Super Bowl, but nobody was ready to kind of go all in.
20,000 people were. 20,000 people Shazammed the ads.
Sure.
Small.
Sure. But I meant from an advertiser perspective, people weren't putting big dollars behind it yet. They weren't believing, but they believe now. And apparently a third of all of the advertising that we're going to see related to the Super Bowl will be Shazamable. So it's pretty crazy.
So this is, I've heard lots of criticism. For one thing, I'm a huge fan of this, and I think that what Shazam is doing, maybe it's not the perfect solution. And actually, I'm going to have Shazam on the show later in January to talk about this exactly thing on Tether.tv. But what they're doing is, I think that this is the beginning of fundamentally altering the ad. Right, so we've always had 30-second, 60-second spots, but with something like Shazam done right on the technology side, you could literally have a 5 or 6 or a 10-second slot and let Shazam do the rest for you. Now, this is going to require a lot of stuff. I mean, really, HopStop and Skyhook, what they're doing with Wi-Fi triangulation and coordination and all that kind of stuff, and what the iPhone did with the GPS, which was exactly that. Wi-Fi triangulation, store your last known coordinate, anything to speed up the simulation of a GPS connection, which is the secret sauce in the iPhone. They have to do that with Shazam. They have to make it so that it's not a cumbersome process to launch the app and aim it, and by the time that you've done it, like so many times I've done with songs, is that the moment is over. They have to make that process quick so that this can be used, because a lot of criticism around how long it takes for it to identify what you're listening to or watching. But I like this, and I think we're at the forefront of fundamentally changing the way television advertising is pushed to us.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, and I'm a big fan of when you can bring mediums together, bring different media types together, and this is right there. So it's great. Looking forward to Shazamming during the Super Bowl.
Shazam! And he used to be a hero, right? He was a superhero, Shazam.
Yeah.
Shazam. Well, I like it as well, obviously. Get very excited about this kind of stuff. Disruptive technology. And under the radar with 170 million people using this. Like, under the radar when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Everybody's focused on QR codes over here, and there's little Shazam over here going, hey, we're going to totally destroy you guys. Fourth story. Now, this is Foursquare doing the, typically you get what we've seen is gain a web audience and then move into the mobile space. And here's Foursquare with a great mobile audience moving into the web space with their Discovery and Explore tab on the web.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what this is, you know, if you've used the Foursquare app, in there's a little button called Explore. You click on it, and it lets you discover and find stuff around you based on your location. So now they're saying, okay, we're going to take that functionality and we're going to make it available in the web. So, you know, basically open up your browser, say you accept, you know, location like you do on an app, and then you can explore around you from your laptop or wherever you are with a browser. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of whatever for me. I think this is just a, you know, we're kind of just extending our reach a little bit further. I don't see any real new value here. There's no new features or functionality that's coming out of this. You know, Yelp and a lot of other guys do this on the web and do it really well, and people are pretty comfortable with that. So, you know, are people all of a sudden going to start going to Foursquare on the web to explore? Maybe, but the maybe is really, you know, predicated on, you know, how much, you know, value can they draw out of all the content that they have associated with the data in the database. Yeah. And right now, you know, we're not hearing a lot about that. We're just hearing, hey, we're on the web. So
it's stiff competition. I mean, Google bought Zagat or Zagat. Yeah, whatever it is, a while ago, and you do have Yelp, of course, the gorilla in this fight, and you're with me. I'm with you on this when it comes to, you know, I think it's necessary that they do this. You know, they're trying to develop an audience, and and if these numbers go towards that, because when you use it on the web or on your mobile device, you still have to set up an account, right? And I think that's what they're judged on, is the number of users that are using this tool. So whether it's on the web or whether it's on a mobile device, I mean, it's a good way to get users, really, quite frankly. But you know what? Here's something that's interesting. It's the trends. And now, in all the articles that I read about this story, everybody used, if you're looking for burritos, as the example. Right? So it's like, hey, you know what? You know, that's what Explore is. If you're looking for burritos around you, if you're looking for burritos, I think burritos are hot. You heard that here. I think they're a trend. I think burritos are trending because every story. And listen, if you're looking for a burrito next to you, this is what you do. And burritos are trending. Foursquare, maybe not. Burritos, yeah.
All right.
Way off, eh? All right.
I'm just going to leave that one, Rob. I got nothing to add to that. So
I like burritos, you know? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, we'll jump to the fifth story.
I'm more of a quesadilla guy.
You're a quesadilla. That's why we work together, right? At least it's in the same family. Mexican, right?
Yeah.
All right, our fifth story, which I love, which is GM is opening up their OnStar API to developers, third-party developers, apps in the car, app stores in the car. I like this. What about you?
I mean, this is a, you know, why didn't you do it sooner kind of story, right? Because it's just, you know, it's a no-brainer that, you know, they've got a great asset in OnStar. They've got a great user base that's sitting there. People who have it love it, and there's so much more that can be done with it. And you know, and I think, you know, opening it up and letting other people, you know, build things on top of it just makes sense. And this is not the first, you know, first car company to do this. And BMW's had this for a while. Toyota does it. Ford does it. So, you know, it was just sort of, you know, when was GM going to come into this and make this available? So they announced this at CES, one of the CES announcements. Not a hardware announcement. There you go, Rob. You know, they also announced the first partner. So the first company is I guess an app called Relay Rides. And it's a peer-to-peer car sharing service that allows users to rent out their own vehicles, their personal vehicles, via the web. So it's kind of cool. You know. Yeah, I think it's a good use of the service.
This is great. I was at MEF Americas in December, and I got to sit down with Steve Schwenke, who's the Director of Advanced Technology for OnStar. There's an interview up on Untether, 15 minutes. It kind of goes into this, about what they're thinking around this technology as pioneers of this kind of dashboard. And I always look at this as you know, you're going to have dashboards in your life. There's the home dashboard, the office dashboard, the kitchen dashboard, the car dashboard, or your transportation dashboard. And OnStar, they were the first guys to do this. And you know, it's incredible. I think that they unlock 30,000 cars a day. Like, that's how many people across in North America are locking themselves in the car and out of their car. And you start to think about this as a platform, cars as a platform. We saw this in 1997, where there was a big pop of, hey, your car is going to be the platform. It's going to be a connected device, internet in the car. And everybody back then, I remember very clearly, everybody back then was saying, distraction, distraction, distraction. I'll never use it in the car. And here we are, whatever, 15 years later.
I mean, telematics is one of the biggest growth areas in this space. So.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. And, you know, we saw stuff at CES about, you know, on-screen display, which is a while away. But when you start to think about what these guys are doing, OnStar is really at the forefront of this piece. They were leaders of the piece, and then they watched as the Ford Sync took a different approach and kind of started feeding it to them. And I like this approach. You know, being able to buy apps inside of the car, I think it's great.
It is good.
Well, you know, I'll plug that once again. Steve Schwinke, who is the Director of Advanced Technology for OnStar. Go and take a look at this. He's everywhere. Smart, smart, smart guy. And I love what they're doing. Big fan of what they're doing. I drive a Mazda, which is like the Luddite in technology. Beautiful car, but absolutely, like, I can't even get XM radio.
There's no APIs in there.
There's no APIs. It's like it's got a jack for my iPhone, and that's about it. That's as good as the technology gets. Mazda is failing. That's interesting. In North American cars, innovating like this, and certainly the Japanese, not so much. I don't know where that's going. It's trends, just like the burritos.
It's trends, like burritos, yeah.
Oh, man. We are terrible. So those are the 5 stories, Asif. We had Groupon partnering with Deutsche Telekom. We had HopStop and Skyhook bringing location to the Kindle Fire. Shazam just nailing it at the Super Bowl. A third of the ads are going to be Shazamable. Foursquare moves into the web, bringing the Explore tab to its web interface, and GM opens up the OnStar API. Links up here, links all around if you want to go and take a look at those stories. Great stories this week. Great selection, Asif. Good, busy week. So, sponsor time. And we have one, Asif. We are
do,
so
we're
thankful.
We're very, very happy about that. And Maponics has been fantastic. So
yeah, our episode last week was the first that they sponsored. They were our featured product, and what we want to do is we want to bring a little bit of information around what Maponics has to offer. And we've labeled this the Maponics Minute because they are important to us and they should be important to you. And really, you know, when you start to think about location-based marketing, all the rage these days has been around geofencing. Geofencing everywhere. There's companies out there that are doing geofences. That's all we hear. But I think that one of the things that we've talked about this as one of the biggest challenges is that there's going to be this layer upon layer upon layer of geofences that just basically are amorphous geofence blobs, right? Which are not predefined geofences. They're not geofences that you can actually. It's left up to the discretion of the person creating it, right? It's a big challenge. So
it's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge, and I think part of the challenge is that when you have a lot of different service providers out there, everybody creating their own geofences, you know, it creates, you know, and so, you know, putting a geofence around a single store, for example, and then another store, you know, doing that same thing with a different service provider, you know, you get overlapping geofences, you get, you know, radii that kind of cross over, you get, you know, gaps in between the geofences, you get all these kinds of issues. And I think it really, you know, lends itself nicely to the idea of, you know, areas, boundaries, neighborhoods are predefined, and you know, if you want to do geofencing, you basically do it inside of a predefined space instead of trying to go and create your own and build your own infrastructure every single time you have to do that. And that's something that you know, Maponics does really well. You know, that's their whole business, is predefined geofences. They've been doing this in the real estate sector for local search companies, direct marketing companies. You know, and this is something that, you know, one of the things is if you're thinking about going and doing geofencing, if you're a service provider, you've got an app, you want to do geofencing, you should give some thought to our sponsor Maponics, in the sense that they've already got these geofences predefined. They're available through an API called DataStream or through a database structure that they already have. And why go build it from scratch when it's already there?
Yeah, I like it, massive footprint that these guys have. And really, if you're interested in this, go to www.maponyx.com//location, and you can sign up for a 3-month API trial or a data trial. Just go to maponyx.com/location, and you'll get your free 3-month trial of either the API or the data trial. So you can play around with both of those to see if it works for you. We really appreciate the fact that they are sponsoring the show. Thanks, guys, for doing this. Really appreciate it. maponyx.com/location. And by going there, you're helping us as well continue with this show, because you're proving that it's valuable to be part of this show. So we appreciate you guys going and supporting our sponsor, because you're supporting us at the same time. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So let's jump into the product of the week. You got to sit down with a great company, right? It's been in the news quite a bit. Roamler. Let's talk about these guys.
Yeah, I mean, had a wonderful opportunity to sit down this week with Vigert de Haan, and he's one of the co-founders of Roamler, and Roamler is a fantastic company that is really focused on putting people to work and assigning them tasks to do in a corporate environment primarily. And, I'll let you hear directly from the man himself. So here you go, interview with Roamler. Hello, and we're very pleased today to have as our special guest and product of the week, Roamler. And with me to talk a little bit about the company today is Vigert de Haan, who's the co-founder of Roamler. Welcome, Vigert.
Thank you, Steve.
So just to get things started, tell us a little bit about who is Roamler, what is Roamler, what do you guys do?
Roamler is basically a massive mobile workforce that can just do about anything you would like us to do. For example, we can take pictures in stores, we can see if point of sale material is placed right, but we can do price checks, we can do creative assignments. For example, how do you use your products at home? But we can also find things that are not in databases yet. For example, you can send out roamers to find ice cream stands all over the city and map all those ice cream places in the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I figured that there are a number of sort of mobile workforce location apps that are emerging in the marketplace. You know, here in North America, we have guys like Gigwalk and Zarly and TaskRabbit, and they're getting a lot of funding too. What differentiates you and Roamler in terms of your service offering from what some of these guys are doing?
Well, first of all, I'm not using those applications because I'm located in the Netherlands. But I think there are two main differences. And one is that, for example, Zarly is mostly one-on-one assignments. And what we tend to do is one-on multiple assignments. So we have one brand or producer that wants to have all this information about a lot of stores. And I think the second thing what differentiates us is that we have a really strong community behind it that besides all those tasks in stores, like those retail tasks, find a certain price or see if the materials placed right, we have a really strong community that is proven to be really creative as well. So we can give information on how products are used at home, or creative ideas about recipes with cheese, for example. So there are a lot of creative insights, information assignments that we are sending out as well, next to the just tasks.
So other than the fact that you have great cheese, of course, in Amsterdam, so that's a good thing. Is it fair to say then that one of the key differences between Roamler and some of these other platforms is you're focused on working with brands and retailers and basically having them use the platform to push assignments out to the mobile workforce, versus some of these other guys are more about consumer to consumer type of jobs and engagement that way. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think it's a fair statement. And we didn't do one consumer-to-consumer assignment yet, so and we're planning to do it later on. But we're focusing on the brands and the producers first.
Okay. So let's take a jump into the future a little bit now. You know, where do you see Roamler and this kind of mobile workforce marketplace being, say, 12 months, 24 months from now? Like, what's next, and what are the emerging trends in this area?
Wow, I think 24 months to look ahead is really far away, and we're trying to look ahead 6 months.
Okay.
What we're aiming for is to be on a many more countries, to have a more global reach. And one of the assignments that I am loving to see is that we are able to get information on how people are doing things all over the world. For example, how do you celebrate New Year's Eve? How do you do it in the Netherlands? How do you do it in Spain? How do you do it in England? So we're getting all those information from all those places, and I think when we're able to give this information back to all those roamers, that we are creating a smaller world, so we will.
Fantastic. And so lastly, if you could just share with us an experience of, you know, a specific client that you've had the opportunity to work with, and why they used, or how they used Roamler, and maybe what quickly what the key benefit was to them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of dangerous, because there are so many practices with Roamler. So you have the store checks, and you have the more creative ones. And I'll tell you about the more creative one. And one of the assignments we did recently was for Philips, the consumer electronic manufacturer. And what we asked our Roamers is to make a picture of their favorite Philips products. And they went into their house and searched everywhere to find those Philips products, and they discovered that they had many more Philips products than they ever thought they would have. And what we asked them is make a picture of the product and tell us why you like this product so much, and tell us how you would recommend this product to a friend. And that gave Philips, in this case, the insights of what they really were, and how what kind of products the people would associate Philips with. Okay,
that's fantastic. Well, that's our time for today. We've had this great opportunity, and we've been speaking with Wigert de Haan, the co-founder of Roamler. Wigert, thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your time with us, and helping educate us as to mobile workforce and location. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And that was Roamler. Wigert was great. I'm excited about these guys.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think it's a hot space at the moment, right? I mean, we've talked a lot on the show about the Zarlies. We're going to be talking about TaskRabbit shortly, and there's the Gig Walks and everybody else. But Roamler's kind of got everybody's got a little different take, and Roamler's is really that sense of as we talked about on the interview, this idea of not just peer-to-peer tasks, or consumers putting up tasks for other people to do, but businesses, corporations, retailers assigning interesting tasks for consumers to go and complete for them. And the more you do, the more trusted you are in the network, and the more kind of points you get, and as a Roamler. So anyhow,
yeah, it's good.
Great company.
And you know what I love about it is that we hear about a lot of the North American companies, but we don't hear much about this. So Roamler, bringing attention to Roamler, because this is a global phenomenon. Boy, is it ever. And we keep coming back to this, is that when all of these companies come together, now I'm not saying that they merge and form one amorphous blob, but when you take the sum of all of these companies, it has to have an impact on the economy. It just has to have an impact, a positive impact on what's going on. So I think that this is not just localized to Silicon Valley hype. This is spread across not only North America, but Europe as well. And it's got to have an impact. That's what I keep thinking. So that's Roamler. Go to roamler.com. Is that right? Roamler.com?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Funding. Okay, so funding stories. Lots of money being dished out. We talked about TaskRabbit a second ago. Let's actually not talk about TaskRabbit. Right into to GetGlue, and timely, obviously, because of the story around Shazam. GetGlue raising a good chunk of change.
Yeah, I mean, GetGlue is one of those guys who, even before Shazam, really kind of I won't say pivoted, but sort of augmented their business model by moving into kind of the TV commercial space.
Yep.
GetGlue has been there for a little while. GetGlue, Miso, there's a bunch of guys who basically built Foursquare-like systems for checking into content, checking into TV shows while you're watching, checking into music while you're listening, checking into a book while you're reading it. And so they're one of these guys. And so they announced this week that they raised $12 million in funding, and they've hit 2 million users on the platform. So, two significant figures for them. The funding is led by Row Ventures. So this is, a reputable, fairly well-known firm. And they had previously raised about $6 million. So they've got now about $18 million in funding, all in there. And, got some interesting other guys from the previous round. Time Warner, for example, was one of the original players. So, this is just good ammunition and fuel for GetGlue.
$12 million, 2 million users. It always strikes me that that's a lot. But compared to Shazam's 170 million, I guess it's the difference about how many people are going to move over from traditional Shazamming of music into the television side, right? And somewhere along the lines, there's a model here. Maybe it might not be check-in, although that's much more flexible because you can check into a show that you've PVR'd, right? But sure. This is going to heat up, especially these connected televisions that we keep seeing at CES. I think that there's something happening here. Quote me on that. There's something happening.
There is something happening, and it's not just burrito eating. It's there's I mean, there's a lot of money going around, and there's a lot of movement in this space, and I think there's going to be continued consolidation, but there's going to be a lot of new entrants coming into this market as well because I think consumers are hungry and willing and available to test this stuff. So
well, I sat down with the guys from Umami as well, and it's another one of these. Yep. It's just this is one of those trends. Like we talk about it. I think last year, midway through the year, everybody was building a group chat application, right? And it just kind of something happened. Right. All of a sudden, 4 or 5 minutes before that, they had everybody had this idea at the same time, and then they launched group chat applications at the same time. And I think that's what's happening here. And I'm eager to see how Apple's take is in all of this. Can they make I mean, they've done a terrible job making iTunes a social experiment, but can they do that with a television set like everybody's thinking that they do? As Steve Jobs has famously proclaimed on his deathbed that he cracked the code of television. So we'll see how this goes. Man, it's going to be an interesting year with 2012 with television and mobile. Second story, TaskRabbit, right?
Yes.
Another one of these competitors, certainly to Roamler and to Gigwalk, bought a company called SkillSlate, which sounds pretty clear what it is. But significant acquisition, you think?
I think it's significant for two reasons. One is you've got TaskRabbit, which is a San Francisco-based company. SkillSlate is a New York-based company, so you can sort of have the two coasts in terms of user bases coming together. So I like that. So it's, think of that as a kind of just geography user acquisition play. The other thing here is I didn't know much about SkillSlate. I knew about TaskRabbit, but wasn't all that familiar with it. So as I was digging into this story, I found out that the types of things that are available to be done on SkillSlate are actually fairly different than the things that are on TaskRabbit. So what you have here by combining is a kind of much wider breadth of services that are available. And so TaskRabbit had sort of your standard kind of post a job for somebody to do, like I need somebody to cut my lawn next Saturday.
Laneway.
I need somebody to go pick up some burritos for me, whatever.
Shovel my laneway.
Yeah, shovel my laneway. Whereas SkillSlate, from what I understand, was much more focused on artistic type of things. So I need somebody to teach me how to play guitar. Those kinds of things. Very cool. So I think that combination will be interesting. So
SkillSlate, yeah. Now it all makes sense. Is that And that's a really interesting business because TaskRabbit is pretty much in the manual labor space, right? Go pick up my dry cleaning, shovel my laneway, pick me up a burrito, go shopping for me. Same thing with Zarly, right? But this SkillSlate is a really interesting play. Like, I'm looking for guitar lessons. I'm looking to learn how to ski. I'm looking to learn a skill. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and TaskRabbit, we talked about them a few weeks back on the funding side as well. They raised about almost $18 million. Yeah. So you got to assume some of that went into doing this deal. Hey, good on them.
TaskRabbit. Again, another one of these trends, right? So Roamler, TaskRabbit, you've got all these guys that are out there, and they're pushing the economy. I think that they're doing this thing. It's really interesting to see. It's like grassroots, economic recovery, and for unemployed or underemployed folks, kind of $5 at a time. And I think that this is really interesting. Good opportunity if you're a business trying to figure out how, like in the services space, on trying to figure out how to grab the attention of a small subset of people that are using this service, probably in your city. So you can be a big fish in this little pond right now, and you can find business doing this. And now you can actually sell your skills, which is pretty amazing as well. Wish I had one, just one. If I had one skill, I could
snow shoveling, isn't it?
It is now. That's right. Last month it has been snow shoveling and snowman building.
Anyhow,
third story. Now this is interesting in a. I think in a passing trend kind of way with Netswiping by, what's the company called? Jumio?
Jumio, yeah.
Yeah. They raised a whole whack of cash. Lots of credit card transactions to equal $25.5 million.
Yeah,
you
big
can't put
money,
that through my
big
visa.
money. Yeah, pretty nice way to start the year, with $25.5 million in your bank account.
Yes.
So this is a public
I'm like
company.
$25.5 million short.
Yeah. So Jumio is a public company, so that's why this data came out with their latest SEC filing, and they had already raised $6.5 million, from what I understand, in March from Facebook co-founder Eduardo Saverin. So they've got some interesting people behind them. So this is a company that's doing some different things. When you look at that payment space, and we talked a lot about PayPal, because I said PayPal is going to be the company, or eBay anyways is going to be the company of the year.
Right next to Amazon, right?
Right next to Amazon, right? So 1 and 2 right there. But anyhow, there's still a lot of innovation and room for innovation around the payments piece. And we talked a lot last year about Square and iZettle over in Europe and how they're handling transactions. And this is yet another way to do it in what Netswiping, which is the Jumio product, is doing. So effectively what you do here is that you hold your credit card.
Go ahead, Steve. Pull up your credit card. Let's hold it up to the screen.
Yeah. No, actually, I don't have it here, Rob. So.
And don't copy his number down, exactly.
Yeah, you hold up your credit card, and the camera basically reads the information off of the card to verify authenticity of it. So the nice thing about it is that you actually have to have the card physically present in order to do the transaction. It's not just some stored information or something somebody pull off a database somewhere or whatever. So I think that's there's some value to that. Whether or not that's going to be the way we do transactions, I don't know if I want to do that as a consumer, but it's an interesting play, and they certainly got lots of money to go and push and see if they can make it happen.
Yeah, they talk about this. I interviewed Card.io, similar styling company. It's basically souped up OCR for recognizing a credit card number, and then you that's what you do, and then it types in the you type in the that little secure code in the back, and that's all you have to do. And iBuyer as well. These guys are in the whole fulfillment space, and I think that it's an interesting. Both those guys interviews. I don't like to push on Tether, but it's like I have interviewed these guys for a long time, like an hour each. So if you want some information, go and look up Card.io and iBuyer. But these guys are very similar in style and that, and it's again maybe iBuyer is a little bit off to the side simply because they're enabling the transaction while you're in line. They want to avoid setting in line. But Card.io and these guys are really, really, really the same style. And I'm still mixed on this. I don't know that this is the right way to go because it's really not a hassle for me to type in my credit card. And the credit card companies have such great anti-fraud policies and procedures that I feel very comfortable with a credit card now, and I don't know if it's necessary. If it's just a matter of holding up this thing that means that I don't have to type in my credit card number yet. Still PayPal is much easier, but we'll reserve judgment on that. I think I made a judgment, didn't I, just there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, have a burrito and we'll all be good.
Yeah. So Netswiping, they raised $25.5 million for this, and it's interesting. Hopefully it leads to something. And I did enjoy both interviews with Card.io and iBuyer as well, so go and check those out. That's it. So $37.5 million and an acquisition. That was a good week. Probably smaller deals as well. If you know of any deals, if you're a part of any deals, if you hear things that you want to publicize anonymously, perhaps, wink, drop us a line. Let us know. untether@gmail.com or asif@thelbma.com. We will post, we will talk, we will discuss, we will do everything that you want us to do if you see a deal come across. If you are actually part of a deal, it doesn't matter how small it is. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. untether@gmail.com or asif@thelbma.com. That's it. Those are the funding news. Wish we had little, like, fly-ins and sounds. Or cha-ching.
Dollar signs? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That'd be cheesy, though. On to the resource of the week. We've been wanting to do this for quite some time, and we've found a spot, which is great, because it's about our good friend, Gary Schwartz.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, if you don't know who Gary is, go to theimpulseeconomy.com and take a look at what his credentials are. He runs a mobile company. He is the chair of MEF Americas, and he is also the author of our resource this week, which is called The Impulse Economy, his book.
Yeah.
And Gary is an incredible ambassador of the mobile industry, and he focuses very clearly on commerce transactions, location-based and location-aware of both of those. And he's also taken it upon himself to steer MEF Americas into the privacy issues and world around the transaction space and location space. And I think that's another thing that's going to be up in 2012.
And he's a big fan of SMS.
Yes.
That much I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So, and if you happen to be in Toronto, as I am, and we mentioned January 24th at the beginning of the show for a webinar by the DSA, but in the morning of the 24th in Toronto, both Gary and I will be speaking along with a guy named Eldad Cohen as part of the Israel Economic Mission to Canada that's doing a whole piece on location-based marketing in the wireless sector. So lots going on the 24th. So anyhow, but a chance to actually meet Gary in the flesh, so to speak, if you happen to be in Toronto. So yeah.
Yeah, Gary is an incredible speaker on this topic, and his book, The Impulse Economy. Go to theimpulseeconomy.com. 3 things that you'll learn. You're going to have to, when you read through this book, you're going to learn how to minimize barriers between the shopper and the sale, which is the key thing, especially around using this technology, and how marketers can connect and reconnect with loyal shoppers, which is something that requires a strategy. It's not as simple as just sending out an SMS. And the underlying factor of this whole thing is that the technology is available now. You can use it. You can actually this book will help you pick the solution that will help you achieve your business goals when it comes to this technology. Love Gary. Now I've sat down with Gary once in Toronto in person. Once we did a session on Untether.tv. It's an hour long. It is incredible. It's one of my favorite sessions that I've ever done. Then I got to sit down with Gary again at MEF Americas down in Miami, where we talked about the book, and that's on Untether.tv. And then we got a new show called M-Pulse, M-Pulse, which is about mobile pulse with Peggy Ann Saltz from Mobile Groove. And we brought him on to talk about his, just this past week, to talk about his predictions for 2012. So Gary is an active and avid user and supporter and certainly soothsayer and ambassador of the mobile industry. Love having him on, so it's our pleasure to feature this. The Impulse Economy is the book. TheImpulseEconomy.com is the breathing book, he calls his blog. Go and buy it. Support guys like Gary. We all need to support guys like Gary.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Jeff Bezos, Gary Schwartz. I like them both. That's it. That's the show. We are done in record time. 7 hours, 44 minutes. Yeah. They're getting longer and longer just because the industry is growing and growing.
There's so much to cover every week. It really is hard to kind of whittle it down every week and say this is what we're going to be talking about. And there's so many great things that we just have to pass on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? We would love your feedback. We get quite a bit of it. It's great. And boy, do we ever appreciate it when somebody sends us an email, pushes out a Twitter post. Go ahead, do it if you love the show.
Yeah.
Do it if you hate the show as well. We just...
All feedback is good.
Yeah, any feedback is great. If you have a suggested topic, if you have a company that you'd like to have featured, if you have a deal that you've done or are a part of or know of, reach out. Like, we are accessible guys. Untethered@gmail.com, Asif at the LBMA.com. You can reach Asif at Asif Arkan on Twitter or at the LBMA on Twitter. You can reach me at Rob Woodbridge or at Untether. And we really want to hear from you guys about how we're doing. 60 episodes in, love to hear some feedback for you. Maponics. God, love them. We love having them as sponsors. They've been great. We would appreciate you supporting them, therefore supporting us. Reach out at maponics.com/location and sign up for your free 3-month trial of their data stream or their database, data stream API or their database. We really appreciate their support. We appreciate your support. Asif, anything else?
No, I think we're good.
That's it. We will see you next week.
I'm off to New York, like super early in the morning for the NRF big show. So,
oh my God,
there you go. So if you're in New York, I'll see you, and let's talk retail and location-based marketing.
Nice. Until then, we'll see you next week for episode 61 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing. Thanks, Asif. Have a good night. Good night, everybody.
Cheers.